Do you have a box full of random quilt blocks that aren't fitting into any projects? Today, I'm going to show you how to use the block to make a fun little tote bag. Welcome to Epida Studio. My name is Elizabeth and I help you make beautiful things with quilting, projagi, and embroidery. So if you're a quilter, you probably have made quilt blocks before and you didn't end up using them in a project. Maybe they were the wrong size. Maybe when you tried it, you didn't really like the color combination. There could be a lot of reasons why you have odd quilt blocks that are left over. Sometimes these are called orphan blocks, but they're blocks that aren't being used in another project. Well, there are some fun, quick and easy projects that you can do to use these blocks in other projects. So today I'm going to show you how to make a little tote bag featuring one of your blocks. So you can make a tote bag using your own favorite pattern, or you can follow along the demonstration that I'm going to be doing. So the basic concept that I'm sharing can be applied to many different things. And so I have this block here, and this is a 9-inch block. And it is just something that I made as a test. I was practicing the technique, and so it's not part of a quilt, it's an extra block that I have. And then I'm going to be using it with this green fabric, and this is just old fabric that I had in my stash. And this is a great opportunity to use either old fabric that was given to you or something that you bought on sale and you didn't have a plan, something that you used to love but you don't really love anymore, and so you don't want to use it in a good quilt project, but to use it in a tote bag that you can use to carry groceries is a great option. Or you can use it to make a gift bag to give things to other people. So to make my bag, I'm going to be using my pattern called the Magic Market Bag, and this is what I think is the easiest and fastest shopping bag that has a flat bottom on it. I think this is the easiest method to do that. If you want more details, you can check out my other video that has a full detailed tutorial for making the Magic Market Bag and adapting it to different sizes. You can check that out. Or if you have another tote bag pattern that you want to use, you can for sure use that same pattern, but this basic technique. So the first thing that you need to do is to figure out the dimensions that you need for your piece of fabric that you're going to make the bag with. And many bags are made with a long piece of fabric that will then be folded in half to make the bag. And that's how the Magic Market Bag works. And for mine, I'm going to use a piece of fabric that is 42 inches by 17 inches. But you can feel free to adjust that to whatever size you want. So taking my 9-inch block, or 9.5 at this stage, I'm going to start with adding a piece of fabric onto either side just to get it to the 17 inches that I want. So again, you could use your own measurements depending on what size you're making, what size block you have, but you just want to add pieces of fabric onto the side so you get it to the width that your fabric is for your bag. So I'm going to add those pieces on now. So I've added these pieces on. So now this piece is 9.5 inches by 17 inches because that is the width that I want my fabric for the bag. And we can see on the back, it has all these seams and raw edges. So we're going to want something to cover that up, because if that was on the inside of your tote bag, then they would probably get, there would be a lot of wear and tear. They would start to ravel and it would really wear out your bag and your block a lot faster. So we're going to want some kind of lining or backing on that. So you can use whatever fabric you want for that. I just have this little piece of cream color fabric. So that is going to be just the lining for that. But to put this together, we're going to put this together in a way that won't leave seam allowances on the top and bottom. So to do that, I'm going to take my other pieces of fabric. So I have two other pieces of fabric cut. A short one that is going to be for the top of the bag, and then the longer piece that is to go down the bottom of the bag and do the back of the bag. So the measurements for these are such that when we take out that this plus this plus this is going to be 42 inches, because that's how long I want my whole piece to be. So I'm just going to join these together, but I'm going to join them together in a special way. So I'll start with putting the short piece and then my block piece, and I'm going to put those right sides together. And then I'm going to put this lining piece on the back. Now this lining piece that I'm using is a solid fabric, so it's reversible, so that is super easy. I don't need to worry about a right and a wrong side. But if this did have a clear right and wrong side, then I would want to put this right side in. So the right side was touching the wrong side, because when I open this, this is going to come down and be on the inside of the bag, and this is going to be on the outside, if you can see that. So these two fabrics are right sides together, the block and the exterior of the bag, and then this one would, if it had a right and wrong side, it would be right side to the wrong side. And then I'm going to stitch a 1/4 inch seam allowance on that edge. I'm going to put a couple pins in there just to hold it together. Because then at the same time, I'm going to be ready to stitch this other edge. So for this one, I'm also going to put this right sides together with this edge. And I also want to have this lining piece come up to that edge. So because this is so much bigger, I'm going to have to just roll it up a bit. So this is similar to if you've ever done a yoke for a shirt or something like that. I'm rolling this up and having this on the inside, and then I have my my block section, the bag parts in the middle, and then the linings on the back. And so I'm going to pin that too. And this one will be a little bit trickier to pin, but just take your time. So here I have on the one side is my block section, on the other side is the lining, and then in the middle are the two bag pieces, the top of the bag and the bottom and the back of the bag. And so I'm just going to sew a 1/4 inch seam along both of those edges. And you might have noticed on this edge, it doesn't line up because my pieces aren't exactly the same width. Some of them I cut a bit differently, and so I'm just going to leave that and then trim them all to be the same after I've sewn it together. So I'm just going to sew that and then show you how it magically opens up. So now I've sewed both of those seams. I'm just going to turn it right side out, and you can turn it from the side. And so there you can see, I'm gonna need to press that, but here is the side with the block piece. And on the other side, we can see that the lining is in, but all the seam allowances are in the middle. There are no raw edges sticking out on either edge. So now we can treat this just like we would treat any long piece of fabric that we would use to make a tote bag. So I'm just gonna press this and then show you how I'm gonna continue to make the Magic Market Bag. So the first step of making the Magic Market Bag is to just finish the edges of the fabric, because some bags can lend themselves to using French seams to take care of the raw edges, but this bag does not. So you want to have some kind of finish. So you can zigzag or serge the edges of your fabric just to finish that. And then we're going to lay the pieces right sides together, which is different than what you might be expecting. And just line it up, fold it right in half. So then on mine, I'm going to go with a 2-inch fold at the bottom. So we're going to do our magic fold. So I'm just going to measure 2 inches from the bottom and fold this back onto itself. So I'm using my ruler. So I leave 2 inches and fold it back. And then I will fold back the other side the same. So now I have my fabric right sides together, but I have this little magic fold. It looks like an M in the bottom. And now I'm just going to sew my side seam. So I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch seam on both sides, and you'll see how this magic fold on the bottom will give me a flat base on the bag without having to trim corners or fold or press things. This is what makes this bag so easy. So I'm going to just sew the side seams on the bag. So now the side seams have been sewn, I will turn this right side out. And there you can see it sits flat on the bottom, and we can see the quilt block that I have is featured on the side of the bag. So now all that I have to do is hem the top. So I'm going to fold that over by about 1 inch, because that's what I calculated when I was figuring out how big to make my piece. I'll fold that down and hem that, and then we'll just need to add handles. And there are a lot of options you can use for handles. You can buy this webbing that is made for handles and put that on. Or if you have fabric, then you can make fabric handles. So I'm doing my super easy fabric handles. So I cut pieces that were the length that I wanted. And so always just double check with your fabric to see how long you want them to be. But I cut fabric that was 4 inches wide, and then I pressed both sides into the middle and then press that in half. I folded in both ends, and then I'm going to top stitch that all the way around so that it looks like this. So it's a nice handle, and then I will just sew that onto the side of the bag so that I have my handle. So again, if you want to see all the little details or more closely how to do that, you can check out my Magic Market Bag tutorial where I go through that in more detail. But if you're comfortable with making bags, then to hem the side and make handles to put on will be pretty easy. So here's my bag all finished, and what a nice way to feature a block that otherwise would be just sitting in your drawer. For more quilting tips, including quilt block tutorials and other ideas for using your quilt blocks, you can check out my website, epidastudio.com.